Hello, Frilico here again, and in this video I'll be looking at a game that is currently breaking the charts on Steam. That's right, you guessed it, OffWorld Trading Company. Just a bit of humor there, I do apologize for the deception. A place in the eighth circle of hell awaits me. Anyway, let's get to it. So, OffWorld Trading Company is a resource management game that is set in space, of all places. But the name kind of suggests that. So, this game was bundled alongside of other Stardock games that I was interested in playing, and so I decided to give it a shot. Visually, the game is sufficiently appealing enough to hold your attention as you attempt to build up your resources and buy out your adversaries. At first, it was actually pretty interesting to see both the models and the accompanying animation to the models for every building type, but of course, after a few playthroughs, the delight was pretty much gone. When I did manage to get to the point where a map was fully developed, there was a number of different animations that often distracted me from the ultimate goal, but that didn't last very long either. The game came with an art pack that added a retro futuristic look to some of the buildings that I enjoy fully utilizing over the standard building models, and I kind of wish the game took on that type of look, that retro future look, but again, different style choices. This style choice is fine. It looks more, I suppose, realistic to what it might look like if we were colonizing outside of Earth. But anyways, ultimately, one of the goals for me in the game was simply to make it to the late stage to see how a map would look fully engaged in off-world activities, and I sufficiently enjoyed the sight of watching a fully developed map just going about its business as I try to buy out my adversaries or just try to buy out the computer. The sounds of the game are simple, but are unique in their purpose that you know what a particular alarm going off means, or when someone has used an EMP on your base without actually seeing it. The ambient music is good enough to give the game that spacey feel, but after a short while, I did just decide to go with my own music playing in the background. Now, not such a huge knock on the game, I usually do that, unless the game has some really good music that I want to listen to, but this wasn't one of those cases. Each building and action does have an appropriate sound to go along with it, and nothing really conflicts with what is going on, but at the same time, nothing really stuck out as particularly memorable, and on the flip, nothing was annoying. So I suppose it's just kind of a neutral thing where, yeah, there's sounds there and they work and it's good. In terms of gameplay, this is basically a resource management game set in space. I'm usually not that fanatical about resource management games, but I did enjoy the Año and Guild series, so I figured this one should fall along those lines. This game is clearly meant to be played at a fast pace, as I constantly had to pay attention to the fluctuating resource prices to buy or sell at the right moment. That aspect of the game was actually rather exciting. It felt pretty good pulling ahead by investing in a resource that was in demand and turning it for a cool profit. There are separate factions in the game, and they each have their own unique playstyle, but when it comes to playing against them, they really don't have any sort of, I would say, personality. I suppose it can be argued that their personality is how you have to approach each of them, but in terms of application, I didn't really consider any of them separate, unique competition, just competition. However, the game really did force me to deal with not having a balanced economy, as that is usually how I play this kind of game. This game really makes you think about how you're going to exploit your advantage to eventually buy out your competition. And what I mean is you can't focus on everything and try to be safe and mine this resource because you need it. You really need to make some choices about where you're gonna put the bulk of your effort in and how you're gonna try and turn that profit. A random skirmish doesn't last very long, just long enough for it to be enjoyable and not to drag out meaninglessly. Admittedly, when I played on too high of a level, it didn't last very long at all. And when I played on multiplayer, and I did find the match, it didn't very last. It didn't last very long at all either. Nevertheless, I enjoyed it for what it was, a fast-paced resource management game where profit is power and you constantly have to deal with the idea of debt and how to keep playing alongside of seeing that big red marker on the upper left hand side. They're telling you how much you owe. When it comes to immersion, I honestly felt that I was some corporate head because I prefer to play as the business-oriented faction, trying to make my company strive in a hostile environment. This applies to both the natural and the human elements at play. When really invested in a skirmish and daring not to push the pause button, which is really tempting, I really felt like a stock trader making sure I made the right move when necessary. The campaign did enough for me to make it something a little more than just directed skirmishes. The ability to carry over upgrades was part of that, and I liked that element. But in terms of overarching story or character development, because there are characters, the game was lacking. But to be fair, this isn't really the kind of game where those are the things you'll be looking for. In regards to longevity, there is plenty provided by the campaigns that I imagine would keep me occupied for more than a week or two, just trying to meet the various objectives from each mission. There is also the inherent replayability that comes with the resource type management game, and of course, when someone feels up to the challenge, playing multiplayer is usually an interesting, if not humbling experience. However, the thing that always gets me about this kind of game is that you really either love it at first and want to keep playing it, or you almost immediately know that it is not your thing. Personally, it was a fun experience and I did enjoy playing the game, but I doubt that I would ever invest much time in it beyond what I already have. It's not that there isn't something there that would allow me to spend a good amount of time figuring out how to best approach the game while steadily increasing the difficulty. It's that without some sort of direct combat element and the black market options that they have just aren't that. I don't think this game really will carry on beyond a few days for me. And there's simply better options around for me to enjoy this kind of game. So, placing it on my ever evolving rating scale of mystery, I rated a great can of sardines out of a horrible can of sardines. There's like two other types of cans in between them, so if I wanted to give it a number, it'd be 4 out of 5. Yeah, that works. Now, the whole sardine thing might sound horrible to someone, but there are people who really love cans of sardines, and that is exactly how I view it. It's a game that people who love resource management will truly find something to enjoy, and people who don't will brush it off without giving it much of a thought. Because at the end of the day, whether it's a horrible can of sardines or a truly spectacular one, it's still a can of sardines. You can tell someone this or that about a can of sardines, but ultimately it's that it's sardines that will be the deciding factor. Anyway, that does it for me. Hope you enjoy, and until next time.